child for sexual stimulation. Victims of child abuse are both male and female. They cross from ages 0 to 18, and this could occur across any social and ethnic group. Child marriage is the most prevalent form of sexual abuse and exploitation of young girls. And incest, which is sexual abuse by family members, can have more serious and long-term psychological trauma, especially when kids are abused by their parents. The other thing that I think we always have to remember is that children cannot consent to sexual activities. These are also images. Can somebody, the image with the child under the bed, can somebody tell me what that may be? What may be occurring with that? You see the child under the bed? So with an image like that, that means the child is frightened. Somebody must be coming into the child's room, and so the child is hiding under the bed. So when we see signs like this, then we know that something's happening with our kids. If our kids are hiding in rooms, not wanting to come out, if they're afraid to talk to us, anything like that, we should be talking to our kids and trying to figure out what's going on. Next video. There are different forms of child sex abuse, which include engaging in sexual activity with the child, indecent exposure of genitals, female nipples, etc., child grooming, using a child to produce pornography, fondling, obscene phone calls and text messages, and sex trafficking. One of the things that we found is when we have families that come into child protection, someone could have come from Nigeria, they could have came from any other country, any other state, and sometimes we like to bring family members or extended family members or friends with us. I had a case as a child protection worker where the family came from Liberia. The dad came by himself and he brought about 6 children. Some were his own biological children and some were from friends that lived in the village with him. Well, when he came, he had to work, so he was working 2 or 3 jobs. And so he was leaving the children home alone. Unfortunately, when he was leaving the kids home alone, the little girl in the house was getting abused by one of the older boys. All the kids in the house knew what was occurring, but nobody wanted to tell. And we didn't find out until the little girl went to school and finally told us that she was getting exploited by this older boy in her home. And so we told the father immediately found another place for him, and the family guy helped him was reunited. But we see that pattern happens a lot when you leave kids home alone and no one's actually watching it, and the child died. It was an 18-month-old girl. So I'm still trying to stress that we really have to be careful with the people that take care of our children. Can you go back for a second? Sometimes, unfortunately, things happen in churches too. We always think that that's a safe place to be for our kids, but we always have to watch and monitor. And if you see something strange and you feel something in your gut, or your child tells you something, you should always believe children. And that's what we find a lot too, that a lot of times people don't want to believe their kids, and this thing can go on and on for years. Sometimes, if your children go and visit friends, you should know who their parents are. You should go to their home and see who the moms in the house, the dads, the uncles, or whatever, because sometimes you don't know what's happening in that other friend's home. Your home may be safe, but when you send a child to another person's home, you don't know what's there. The next video. These are also images of child sex abuse. This is a little, okay, I'll ask, does anybody see, what do you see in these pictures? You want to say something? That's correct.
Why the second picture? I think that the abuse then she's crying.
Correct. So did everybody hear what should we go to the next one? So there are warning signs that we as the adults, even I found that a lot of times siblings know that the child, that their sibling is getting abused, but they don't say anything, or they're afraid to tell their parents. But these are some signs. If your child, who normally never acts out, is well behaved, starts acting out in inappropriate ways and playing with toys inappropriately, and people know what I'm saying, playing with toys inappropriately, like sexually playing with toys. When your kids are having nightmares for no reason in the middle of the night. If your kids are being clingy or withdrawn, say you want to take them to your aunt's house or a friend's house, and the kids are saying, I don't want to go to auntie's house, we should ask, why don't you want to go there? When maybe you have an adolescent girl and she's becoming, well, at that time you do become a little withdrawn, but if she's secretive and she's not expressing things to you, that could be a sign. Sudden unexplained changes in their personality. If the kids seem really moody, if they appear to be depressed, they won't eat. Those are other signs. Regression. You have a child that's 2 or 3 years old and they've been potty trained, and then all of a sudden they keep wetting and wetting on themselves, or sometimes they are pooping on themselves. That can be a sign, and that's usually how we find out too as well. Fear of a particular person or certain places, and the kids continually tell you they don't want to be there. Kids that don't eat, or they start eating a lot and hoarding food and hiding food. If you're girls, if they start talking about a friend and the friend is much older, and you need to figure out what interest that that friend has in that child. Next. There are also physical warning signs. Pain, discoloration, bleeding, or discharge. When I told you the story of the baby, the 18-month-old baby, the mom saw when she changed her baby's diaper that the child had been bleeding. I can't. Can you come up
Nothing anybody like that.
Okay. And this little boy, what do you think is happening with him?
That the little boy doesn't know what is happening, but one thing that he knows is doing the better abusing him.
So when our kids are withdrawn and they're not talking to us and they're usually happy, then we know something is going on. We should be asking them questions. And this one right here, this picture right here is, you see the man, he has a drink in his hand, and he probably is intoxicated and walking into the child's bedroom. And that happens a lot. Men getting drunk, coming in. Like I had one case where the mom had a teenage daughter. The daughter was about 13 or 14 years old. And this was mom's second marriage, so this wasn't his child. And when mom was at work, because mom worked in the evening, he was sexually abusing this girl at home. He would drink, sexually abuse her, and finally she went and told an aunt. Mom didn't believe her in the beginning. Mom loved her husband and said, I think my daughter is fast, so we're using words like that, and didn't believe her. It's not until they got into therapy and the other teenagers in the house, his own kids, said, we saw Dad touching her, going into the room at night, and that's when the mom believed the child. Next video. Okay, there are psychological effects when you have trauma such as sexual abuse. And so, child sexual abuse can result in both short and long-term harm, including psychopathology later in life. So, some people who, as adults, start exhibiting mental health issues, that's what they're talking about. Maybe when they were younger, they were sexually abused and no one helped them, or people didn't believe them. And so later on, it starts coming out because it's something that needs to be addressed. So the effects include depression, anxiety, eating disorders, poor self-esteem, sleep disturbance, dissociative and anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder. While some children may exhibit regressive behavior such as bedwetting, the strongest sign of sexual abuse is sexually acting out. So what happens a lot of times is maybe an uncle sexually abused the child, and then the child, when they're 7 or 8, has a younger sibling, and then they start doing the same things to that child. That's when we find out, oh, sexual abuse has happened in that home. Victims may withdraw from school. So when you have kids that were happy and going to school, and all of a sudden they decide they don't want to go to school, and you can't figure out why, or you discover that they're not going to school. We call it playing hooky from school. I don't know what you call it here, but when parents send their kids out to go to school and then they don't show up at the school. Teenage pregnancy and risky behavior may appear in adolescence. So the girls may start having a lot of sexual partners because they were sexually abused. So that's another sign. The next one. So there's physical effects. Depending on the age and the size of the child and the force used on the child. Child abuse may cause bleeding. In severe cases, there can be damage internally to a child. So the child I was talking about earlier had internal damages, and when that child didn't go to the clinic, the child passed away. So the uncle had injured the child internally. And then infections. Child abuse may cause infections and sexually transmitted diseases. And so that's how a lot of times we find out that children have been sexually abused, because there's no reason for kids to be having sexually transmitted diseases, herpes, blisters on their face, a lot of things that children shouldn't have. Okay. So next. So treatment. When we talk about treatment, it's something that people have to deal with when they're sexually abused. So either they can have family therapy, group therapy, or individual therapy. They need to be able to talk about it, and somebody needs to explain to that child that was hurt that it's not their fault, that an adult took advantage of them. So it's determined on a case-by-case basis what will happen for the child. Like when we have teenagers, sometimes we have group therapy where they can talk to other kids and see that this has happened to other people and they don't feel so bad about themselves. So these are other images. Can someone else tell me what these images bring to them? You want to say something? What do you see? Yes. Right. So she can't cry out. Right. And what is the little boy doing? Could he be asking for help? Could he be asking his parents for help? Okay.
The bonding issue is to share, like,
yes.
Help.
Yes. So he's showing a sign. He's telling his mom. He's telling his dad. In conclusion, how can you protect your child from child sexual abuse? Child sexual abuse can happen to children of any age, and we must remember that. Race or socioeconomic group. There's no foolproof way you can be the best mommy and daddy in the world when something can happen to your child, because there are people out there that do bad things to children. But these are some of the things that I did as a parent and that we all can do as parents is be involved in your child's life. That's the most important thing. Have a relationship with your child. And I know that when you have a relationship with your child, children tend to want to talk to you and feel safe with you. Demonstrate interest in their day-to-day lives. Ask them what they did today. Get to know the people in your child's life. Know who your child is spending time with. Choose caregivers, house help carefully, and screen the caregivers. Don't let someone just send someone to your house to take care of your kids and then you leave them all day. Sometimes come back in the middle of the day and see what's happening with your kids. Know the warning signs that we talked about of sexual abuse. Teach your children about boundaries in their body. Your child should know that no one should touch them. That's the first thing I taught my child. No one should be touching you, especially your private parts. So no one should be making them feel uncomfortable. Let the child know they won't get in trouble for telling you. And a lot of times we find out that children want to tell their parents, but they're so afraid that their parents are going to scream, yell, or whatever at them and not believe them, so they keep this in and the abuse keeps occurring on and on again. So please have a conversation with your child and talk to them and tell the child they should be free to tell you anything because you love them and you want to protect them. Are there any questions?
Because many of them, most times the abuser threatens them, talk to your parents, do this, that, but children should learn to be free. Don't believe what the abuser is saying. Be free, talk to your parents and do this.
So did everyone hear that? Because a lot of times what your child should feel safe enough to come to you as a parent that you're going to keep them safe. So we have to have conversations with our children. This world isn't that safe that you can just believe that nothing will happen to them if you don't inform them. When you inform them, and the other thing that we found is that people look for victims. They look for kids that don't talk, that are withdrawn, or that always show your interest in your child. The other thing is that we discovered that sometimes sex abuse can happen in the school and you don't know it. You can also be sending, I used to work at a program where I worked with school-age children, and we used to take the children to the Y, and I worked with all boys, and we would just send the kids, he was fondling the kids, he was touching them, and the boys didn't tell us for about 2 weeks. Finally, one young little boy told his mom. So really, wouldn't you think that a swimming pool is a safe place? It's a place for kids to go into the bathroom and they should be able to change their clothes. So we had to have, and I couldn't go in the bathroom with them, they were boys and it was a men's bathroom, but we had to have an adult male go into the bathroom with them and make sure they were safe. So unfortunately those children were abused, but at least we were able to stop it. The man was arrested, he did go to jail, but that's something that could have been prevented. We should have had an adult male going into the bathroom with the children. Does anybody have anything else?
We want to thank Mrs. Angela.
Unfortunately, I was a bit late, but I knew what you are talking about. What I'm going to talk about is my own practical experience or experiences concerning child abuse and substance abuse. Have you got substance abuse? I'm not. So, child abuse, let me talk briefly about it. You know, in my practice, I've seen a lot of cases. Some are referred to us by the police, some come directly through their parents, and they bring the child that, oh, the mama has gone somewhere, maybe to sell wares, and something has happened. And maybe the thing has been going on for some time, and somebody now calls them, and they brought them to the hospital. So we see, we examine. Of course, you know, you cannot say there is rape unless there is penetration, according to the lawyer. So, have you? So, but what we look at, we look at the semen, if there is any semen there, which we take some of, to analyze, and this thing, we will look at it in a narrow way, but it's a prevalent thing in society. Child abuse is just there. Now, I was living in a house. That house, of course, the owner of the house is a cocaine pusher, a lady, beautiful lady. But our friend was sent on an errand and she was caught, maybe in Italy or something like that. And the child, a female girl, about 11 or 12, had to live with this woman. And I saw this girl, I said, they will spoil this child. And lo and behold, within a short time, that small girl of 11, 12 has been having sex. Some people will come from one side, when this woman, when she travels, is the lady and that small girl and the old woman that will be around. The old woman will be downstairs, that girl will be upstairs. And people go in and have sex with that child. Happens, that's the truth. That's why we parents have a lot of things to do. And especially this first and Facebook, the type of household is so common. Very few cases from those who live in flats. But this Facebook and Facebook where there are so in the house there will be about 100 people living in that place. That type of thing is very common. And even within the household, just like the last speaker said, I have a patient, a girl, small girl, I think she's JSS or something like that. Every time she comes to the clinic, I saw that she was almost irritable. So I was trying to press myself, what's the problem? What's that you are not happy with that? If I tell you, they won't tell my daddy. Apparently, the mother is dealing with this man, who is also my patient. But that child was not that of the man in the house. I mean, she had the child, the girl, somewhere else before coming. And the girl that told me, saying, please don't tell him, he will kill you. So what's the problem? He said, in the night, especially when my mother is not around, this man, I know you will go to prison, that's why I don't want to. But I don't want to nurse to my house. In the night, now will come and start to struggle with his breast. The breast was just coming out, a young girl. And right now the girl is grown up, but I was following the event, and she was having regular sex with this man. That's the truth. They are still living together. The mother has traveled to the Bible or something. She will spend about 6 months and come back. By the time they come back, they are living in one room. Can you imagine? So these are the things that are happening, and those of you who are privileged, who have anywhere to stay, you have to thank your God. But there are some people who don't have anywhere to stay, and that's why they are abused. And the idea of many people sleeping in a single room, of course, we've had cases where when the mother and the father are having their own thing, the child is watching and looking at what they're doing. So what we expect that child to do is that the child will do the same thing and enjoy herself. So it's a different thing, and you see, because of the poverty level in this country, a lot of things are happening. One thing I want to touch is this social media.
Also take this opportunity to ask questions. We want to ask, do you have any question? You have a question, sir? Okay.
Hereditary. I mean, when parents have issues of maybe parents have gone through like aggressive sexual abuse when they were young, is it possible to pass it on to their children?
Sexual abuse, they may sexually abuse another person if they don't get help, but parents don't pass that on to their child. Sometimes sex abuse is aggression and anger, and it's not the sexual act, it's just taking out that anger on someone else that's more vulnerable. And so sometimes we do see teenage boys doing that to younger boys or younger kids, and it's more of an anger, aggressive kind of thing, more than a sexual type of thing, even though they're using anger sexually to hurt a child. But no, it's not hereditary. Because your dad's a rapist doesn't mean that all his kids are going to be rapists. So no.
Adults that have sexual things, they don't care. Why? If they are in the mood, what can they look for an adult like themselves? Why children? That's my concern. As in, why children? Why are they after children? Is there any difference between children and adults, as in having sex with adults and children? Is there any difference? We should ask men. So that's my question. Why are children?
Yes. Mental fights. They call them mental fights. They are involved with small children and it's a mental health.
The majority of the time when sex abuse happens is because they are in a situation where the child is vulnerable and the child cannot fight back.
Let's establish all that. Okay, thank you.
That's the same. What about, my question is to Mrs. Angela, what about spousal sexual violence? Something, a violence that been occurring between husband and wife and children who are grown up are talking to such. And I want to find out, will that one form will it form part of them? Will it give them a makeup or an idea in which can involve all these things or can inform all these things we can explain? Thank you.
And the man has brought his wife and his girlfriend sometimes, and he's set up 2 homes, and in those homes he's abusing both women and abusing those children as well, and the kids are seeing this as normal or natural, and so they don't tell, or sometimes how we found out is like a friend will visit, and then the man starts touching the friends, the daughter's friends, and then he's been sexually abusing those girls in the home. Some are his, some aren't his, some are his stepchildren, and he's, I guess, gets so much power because he's getting away with it, he starts abusing other kids. And what's happened is that sometimes the mom knows what's going on, that she's so vulnerable, so afraid because she's getting beaten and because he's paying the rent or paying the mortgage or whatever. And so she's afraid that if I tell, or if my husband goes to jail, then what's going to happen to my family? So she can't see beyond that he's actually harming her kids or traumatizing her kids, and that in the end, sometimes the parent actually loses, the mom actually loses all the kids because she cannot separate from him. And so sometimes, you know, when you look at it, you want to blame the mom, but sometimes she was abused as well, and that's all she knew. And then she gets a partner, she marries at 15 or 16 or marries real young, and then she gets a partner that's abusive and is doing the same thing her father did to her. So sometimes that's when it can be generation after generation. And the only cycle that's broken is maybe when the daughter says, I'm not going to take this, and she tells someone, and then that child is removed, or those children are removed from that home.
When she said that to do prevent, that's in the context of treatment now, some ailments that are ordinarily hereditary, you can stay away I think more specifically, for instance, the sickle cell anemia issue. If you can be bold enough to say, even though you love this person, and you are probably AS or SS, and then the other person is AS or SS, if you get to marry each other, you give a birth, there is that very high tendency that you will give birth to SS, and that is not good for us to eliminate such elements. So that is something that we can also learn to practice in Africa, because in Africa most times we don't too interested in this. All we know is love, and then my parents will like this person if I like this person, or they will come first on you. Let me also please want to add that Delightsome lands, and I want to believe that they probably have individuals who are also assisting, should go beyond this forum, this light forum. Let me say that as we are here, majority of us here are elitists. We probably have even had some of these lectures. We need to go into the interland. We need to encourage Delightsome lands and similar interests to go into, even in Lagos. Don't be surprised that in Lagos we have very, very local areas. Go to even in the Keja here, you still have some suburbs where we can let them know, especially this area of sex abuse of the child. So I will implore us, that's talking about those who belong to Delightsome land now, you can also see how you can have a draft bill, like a private bill now, to the House of Assembly, because some of the things that our dear man from the US discussed here are things that should even go into our legislation to save the child, especially the girl child. So if you can also have that, then we know that we're, because it's not about just talk. In Africa we talk, we don't act. We need to act. Those of us who are not part of the Delightsome land or part of similar NGO, we should begin to be part of it. I am going to pledge, I will not mention, but I'm going to pledge financially and materially to improve this type of program. God will support me, because we need to act. It's not just about talk. You don't leave everything to the government. The government will most times do these things for political reasons. They come on the podium when they want to campaign to get your votes, and they tell you they are doing this. So it's only a group like this, and those of us individuals who are very interested, that can really get it done. So I wish Delightsome lands our best of luck.
The boy has an attitude of touching girls, and we have been employing many methods to save the girls away from the boy. So, and I discovered that he's not only in school, even at home. So in such a case, what can one do to help that?
Because they start acting out with other children. And so we provide therapy in the US. So is there someone that can talk to the child to try to figure out what's going on? It could be going on in his home, it could be going on in the community, but somebody probably is doing something to that child, because kids are not just sexual beings. They don't just start touching people inappropriately or touching themselves inappropriately. So I think that somebody has to get help for that child individually. He has to be able to talk to someone, he has to feel safe, and they need to get to the bottom of whatever's happening with him. The other thing is the parents need to be interviewed, because did you say that something's happening in the home too? That he's touching someone in the home? So maybe somebody in the community is touching him, or uncle, aunt, who knows? But the child needs what we call an investigation. Somebody needs to sit down, talk to the child, somebody that the child can trust, and figure out why are you doing this. Questions need to be asked like, has somebody touched you in the past? Have you felt unsafe in the past or uncomfortable? And then get to the root of that. After that, you can start getting help for him. I'm from America. But there are programs for abusers. And we find that those programs last more than a year, 2 years, because you have to figure out why the person's been abused, why the person's abusing children, and then also get to the root of what happened to that person and why they're doing it. And then the other part of it is sometimes they are able to reunify with the family after all the family gets some help. And there's what we call a safety plan where the children in the home are able to say, the protecting parent, like the mom, needs to be able to protect the child, and they need to teach her how to do that. And the other thing is that the kids need to be able to say when they feel unsafe and if this person is actually doing it again. But yeah, there's help, and people do get help. Sometimes people will use alcohol to act out on things, but they had those thoughts before they started using the alcohol. So don't let somebody say, oh, I was drinking and that's why I did it.
Most of these things are foreign that we need to put in proper perspective the African issues. Now let me tell you, it may sound funny, but it's true. You don't have it in America, we have it in Nigeria. We have the medication. And let me tell you what is happening in Ikeja, for instance. I tell you because it's the elite area. You don't try it in the village. Because you know Ibamagu? You don't know Ibamagu? Really, it will also be very nice if our medical doctors, pharmacists and the rest, Dr. Fowley is a challenge. Maybe we should also try to see how we can put Magu into us.
Increase in our society because of the situation of things. One, poverty, joblessness. The government is not doing anything about it. Then we ourselves are not helping ourselves. How we should be reorientated to go into small scale industry. Everybody is relying on a man who is raping his own child is because he's godless. Like the Yoruba says, oh, what's over today? When they should wash it, then the man has gone to work 5 a.m. come back 11 p.m. If the wife calls him, wake him up, he will say, I'm tired. Then when these men, when they go through stress of life, so many things will begin to come into their mind. That is one. So we need to do something to empower both young and old, especially the adolescents, because I have some fear for them. I always follow some up in the neighborhood. The moment they don't pass jam, the moment after graduation they don't get a job, you see them coming to buy something with codeine and tramadol and this and that, and then homosexuality, lesbianism among the ladies in the secondary school, all these things. So, there is what we call family life education. This should start from age 3. The doctor has just shown me a video, a 4 or 5-year-old boy that was being raped by a woman, so to say. So if these people, they have been learning of this thing in the schools, it should be incorporated into their curriculum. And also, there should be psychotherapy. It's part of the treatment. It's not drug, psychotherapy. There's a way you can win these ones out of all these substances and engage them in useful things. If the government fails, then we ourselves, we should gear up to do something to help the situation. And the NGOs too, how we can empower
young and old to be up and doing, to get something to do, to lay their hands on something before they get it upstairs and they become psychotic about rape and sexual abuse. God help us. My grandchild of 2 years plus knows how to operate my phone more than I do. He said, "Mama, bring it. Let me show you. Let me show you." You don't leave these children to television. They watch all sorts of pornography and all the rest. Before a man breaks them, they too, they are to eat. They know it. That's why they don't protest. That's why they don't shout. And then poverty level has led some family of 6, 8, 10 living in the same room, and the husband and the wife were having sexual intercourse in the presence of the children who pretend to be sleeping and they're not sleeping. So they learn all these things from the family, from the internet, from the society. May God help us.
Because a lot of things are happening. And please, peer pressure, try and manage it very, very well. Because those who are in court, they were brought there by friends. Oh, you want to belong in school, come to this something, you will be protected. From there, they graduate into taking drugs and so on and so forth. I just want to give a small, my own personal experience. I mean, I was close with that. When I was in the secondary school, you know, initially I started as a day student, innocent person. But by the time I moved into the college school, I met friends. They introduced me to cigarette smoking. So, I was smoking cigarettes. I was smoking that one, was it 3 or something? I can't remember all these small something. We buy a packet, we know, okay, which among you can take the whole packet within a day? What are the things we are doing? From there, they introduced marijuana to us. We are taking it. I'm telling you the truth. We are taking it. We go to the back of the dormitory, we take. But among those who are taking it, we are about 6. I can tell you that I'm the only man standing. The rest, some are dead, some are going to prison, and so on and so forth. So, please, don't allow peer pressure to affect you. Thank you very much.
And we hope you will put it into practice. All the things we've learned, we put them into heart. Thank you everyone for coming. We hope to see you in another edition with learning soon. Thank you.
My name is I want to share my experience of what I have been passing through in life and to just encourage our people, especially youth, not to be discouraged or not to give up in life, whatever they are going through. As I am, before I got married, I've been going through a lot of things from my family, as a family background. And I want to thank God that I'm not wayward. Because if I'm wayward, because of the things I've been going through in the family, can lead someone to something that you are not supposed to be doing, as in following men around because of money, because you need food on your table and all that, and you just be doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. But then, I just make up my mind that I will not do that. I will not go about with any men because of money. And even after I got married, it continues. My marriage is 9 years. I'm still waiting. And in the course of that, there are lots of issues, even in marriage, in my marriage. I and my husband are not together. And at the same time, I put on my mind that I'm not going to any marriage again because I don't believe in second marriage. I don't believe in this. It's my husband. I found it difficult to fall in love with a woman because I love my husband so much. And I've made up my mind that another man will not sleep with me. And you know, temptation just keeps coming from different ways because of what you are into, you know. There are men that want to take advantage of you just because they know that you are in one situation in the world. They promise heaven and hell. They will do this, they will do that for you. I have some men that they want to buy a house for me, they want to buy a car for me, they want to establish my business, give me money to boost my business and all that. But I just tell them to go to hell. To go to hell because I don't pay my business. So I've been paying rent, doing everything myself, paying bills and all that, taking care of myself and taking care of home. And my family too are there. I have my siblings, my parents are there. My parents are home, and I need to take care of them too. These are all the things that I've been going through, and I just made up my mind that I won't sell myself cheap because of money, because I need food on my table. I will not give myself to anyone. I won't do that. So I'm just trying to encourage people that in any situation they find themselves, they shouldn't give up. They shouldn't give up at all. They should just continue to look up to God, the author and the finisher of their faith. He's the only one that can do it for them. It should not depend on any man. Because there are lots of people that they will even promise you that they will do this, they will do that for you. Because at the end of the day, they won't do it. I'm looking up to God. And I know that where God is taking me to, He will surely take me there. God will surely take me to where He will take me to. And I need prayer that the grace of God continues to abide with me. I really love this program because it's because of what I've been going through. Even me, I have a lot of plans. I have plans because I have a vision. I have a vision. I want to have a foundation, you know, to be helping people around me. But due to the situation around, or let's say the economic condition, you know, I've not been able to do that. And you know, I'm somebody that ministers to youth also. So I've been planning that at least this kind of program will take it to rural area. Because if you invite people like this for this program, the people that really need it, they won't come. They won't come unless you take this kind of program to their doorstep. That's when they can benefit from this thing. But if you are not taking it to their doorstep, there's no how they hear about it. There are lots of them like that. This kind of thing we are talking about here is happening to them in their neighborhood, but they don't know how to go about it. We have a lot of children that they are still in this situation, but they can't talk to anybody. They need help. They can't talk to anybody. So this program is a lovely program, and I think that at least God should help us, like somebody like me, so that at least we take the program to rural area. financially buoyant, I'm ready to support this program. In fact, I'm ready to be part of this Delightsome Lab. The advice is that I really appreciate the organizer of this program. I really appreciate them, and I pray that God will continue to uphold them. God will continue to help them even to take this program to far. And the advice is that you should not let the program just be in the hall. Let's take it outside. Open events, yes. Open events. Not be inside the like this. As we are inside this nest, there are lots of people who don't even know what we just know that some people think it's a program. We are inside hall here. They don't even know what we're talking about. So as people in this area. So we need to go out as awareness, outside the society.
Well, I think I'll take the solution. So you continue.
Okay. You see, mental illness can, in a layman's language, can be defined as abnormal behavior. In layman's language, abnormal behavior. Because in any society, there are norms which you have to follow. And if you deviate, then it means something is wrong with you, opposite. But that's the simplistic way of, defining it. But you see, mental illness is so common in Nigeria, unfortunately, because we have the number of psychiatrists in this country is so good. That's why people manage to go to this herbal groups, for their own treatment. Now, as for the causes of mental illness, number one can be hereditary, but there are some they run in family. It's there. So the child, if maybe the grandparents have mental problem, the child now has it, of course. That's you are talking about the familiar thing that is within the family is hereditary. So that one is there. Then secondly, in this country, substance abuse is the less common, in fact is the most common. Mental abuse, the drug abuse. And people take amphetamine, all this cocaine, marijuana, and so on and so forth. And I will give you a small example of myself. Right? When you are young, you want to explore the world. You want to, just be like your peers. I was, taking cigarettes. When somebody introduced me to cigarettes in the secondary school. And from there, we all graduated to, taking marijuana. You understand my point? And I can tell you that among those who we are taking this thing together, I can say I'm the only one that is balanced. Some of them had mental illness and they died. Some of them are still down there. There was one of them that I saw. He's still teaching these primary schools people, what they do around the house. Mental illness. But marijuana causes it. I know.
So what are some of the solutions to mental illness, especially in Nigeria?
Well, you see, the major solution in this country is for people to be contented and also not to look at their peers. Don't join bad gangs. This courtesy that is prevalent in all our universities and is one of the major causes of this. Because they take substance, they take cocaine, they take marijuana, they take all sorts of things. And that's why a lot of them misbehave, they kill. How can you go and kill somebody if you are not mentally stable?
And stress causes mental illness.
Of course, stress can cause it. If you are unduly stressed, you can walk and break down, then they are done.
Educate people majorly on sexual abuse of kids. Although there are many people that have been, educating kids about sexual abuse concerning stop it, but what we want to do is to educate both the kids and the perpetrators, those that are sexually abusing the children. We want them to know that sexual abuse is actually a mental health disorder. Anybody that is just having feeling for a minor, it's not normal and it has diagnosis. So we want to encourage people to seek help. The help we are talking about is maybe in form of drugs. They can see psychiatrists, and therapy too can work for it. So we don't just want people to think, oh, that is me, I just like kids, I just like children. No, it's a mental health disorder, and we want people to really know that if you are sexually abusing a child, you are just like a madman on the road. You have mental health disorder, and we want to name it so that people will just know that no, it's not as if it's just something that we can do and get away with it. It's not as if we are trying to minimize the crime. We just want people to know that they can get help.
Okay, do you think that getting into drugs could be part of what is causing perpetrators to, abuse minors?
Yes, drug too is part of it, but that's another level. There are some people that are not into drugs that still abuse kids, So, but at times when people that are not maybe that doesn't have mental health disorder get into drugs too, that can be another thing. But that's on another continuum entirely.
Okay, what's your word for mothers? You just made a statement that mothers could only call their children to say, stop, don't do this, don't allow men to touch this, don't allow. What's your advice to them concerning their privacy, to life and every other thing?
Yeah, and that's part of what we'll be training people on today. We'll be presenting on what parents could do, and we need to equip them to know the signs of a potential abuser. There are signs. There are things you start seeing in your compound, maybe most especially those that live in these our face-to-face, face me, I face you homes. If you start seeing maybe bras missing on the rope, pants missing, normally we think that, oh, somebody has stolen my bra, they want to use it for ritual, it's voodoo. No, we want them to know that if you are seeing that, there might be somebody in your compound that have a mental health diagnosis. There are people that is just their own specialty, that's their own disorder. They will steal women fabric and use it to masturbate. But where that concerns parents is that those type of this diagnosis, they're comorbid. Somebody that steals fabric that just like using female pants to masturbate can also abuse a child. So it can comorbid. So that's part of what we'll be training them on today.
Okay, and your advice to the children? Of course, children too needs advice.
Yes, we know that children need advice, and what we need is to train them to know what to do, to know that when they are sexually abused, they can talk to an adult. Even if they don't want to tell their parents, they can talk to a significant other, maybe a teacher, an auntie, they feel comfortable. And most of these perpetrators, they normally tell them, if you tell somebody, I will kill you, you will die. Let them know that is just fallacy.
Okay, talking about training, are you planning taking it to schools?
Sure, we'll be running more campaign. We'll be taking it to school and even outside school, the marketplaces, where we know that people need it. People need to hear about it.